Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler and today I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5e and we're going to talk about throw-in weapon attacks. Yes, we're finally getting to a topic which I probably should have done a long time ago. I do understand the frustration people might have had because I haven't covered this particular rule and I've covered so many other rules. But yes, we are going to talk about throw-in weapon attacks. So throw-in weapon attacks can be a bit confusing because there's a few factors involved. So if you turn to page 147 of the Player's Handbook, that's 147 of the Player's Handbook, you'll find some details regarding throw-in weapons. Now, I've broken it up into three core concepts that you need to understand. For this video, I'm going to explain it, I'm going to demonstrate it, and then I'm going to cover all of the sage advice. Yes, that's right. I'm going to cover sage advice on the topic. Yes, there is going to be a demonstration with maps, miniatures, and stuff like that. So first off, a weapon with the throw-in property can be thrown to make an attack. That's the basic concept behind a throw-in weapon. So some weapons may be a finesse weapon, or a light weapon, or a melee weapon, and if they have the word throw-in, it means that you can throw that weapon provided you are proficient with it without any sort of penalties or losing any aspects to your attack roll. So if it's listed as throw-in, then you can throw it. Wonderful. If the weapon is also a melee weapon, you're going to use your character's strength for making the attack roll and the damage rolls. That's the strength modifier. So that's only for the close quarter melee weapon. Okay, a close quarter melee weapon, strength. But a weapon with the finesse property can be thrown using either the character's strength or dexterity for the attack and the damage. That's, you get to choose. Whichever one is going to be highest is the one you want to go for, right? Otherwise it wouldn't make an awful lot of sense. So that is the basics behind it. Very, very simple, and as long as it's got the throw-in property, you can throw it with no sort of problem. So I'm going to open up with our scene here. This is sort of like a derelict sort of town, and I've got you this is going to be our elf fighter. Our elf fighter is going to demonstrate using a dart, which is a finesse weapon, and a spear, which is a melee weapon, okay, with the throw-in property. Both are weapons you can throw. And we're facing off against a bearded devil and a chain devil. I'm going to deal with the bearded devil because it's got lower armor class. Okay, so first off, when it comes to making your attack roll, I said we're going to be using the pre-made generated character sheet for the elf fighter at level 1. You'll find that on the official Dungeons & Dragons website. You'll find the link down in the description so you can check my numbers so you don't get confused. So we're going to use one 20-sided dice to make this roll, and I don't have disadvantage or anything like that, so that's good. So it's just a single roll, and the modifier for the attack roll is a +5 because we're using dexterity plus our proficiency at level 1, which is 2. So I roll that attack. I've rolled it. I rolled a 14. Okay, so we're going to add 14 to 5. So 14 to 5 comes to 19. You'll let me know if my maths is wrong. I'm sure you will. I'm sure I will hear all about it. There we go. So 19 is equal to or greater than the armor class of our bearded devil. Now we're within range. The range on a dart is 20 feet, and anything further than that is going to be at disadvantage. So that's only 5, 10, 15, 20. We're just in range, so we don't have disadvantage. That's why I only rolled one dice. And 19 is certainly greater than or equal to the armor class of the bearded devil, which has a 13. So we hit the target. Now we're going to do some damage. So I'm going to grab a damage dice for that, which is just going to be our simple old 4-sided dice. We can't even call it a real dice, really, can we? Can you call a 4-sided dice a real dice? I don't know that we can. I think it's just it's a bit of a nonsense. So the damage for this is going to be taken, because it's finesse, check either whether you're going to use strength or dexterity. In this case, dexterity is higher, so we're going to be going 3 plus whatever we roll on that 4-sided dice for our damage. Just like so. So we'll roll that. I rolled a 2, so that's 2, and that's going to equal, I should have not put it back quite so soon. There we go. So we do 5 damage on the bearded devil with the dart. Now, the thing with a bearded devil, Normally, if it's not a particularly unusual creature, it would just be 5 piercing damage, and that's it from the dart, because we rolled 2 and we add 3 for our modifier. In this case, it's a bearded devil, and they are unfortunately resistant to anything that is not magical or not silvered and does bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage. So, unfortunately, we're going to take half that damage on our bearded devil. Our bearded devil instead is going to take round down, so we're going to halve it. It would be 2.5, so it's going to be rounded down to 2. So 2 piercing damage on the bearded devil. But any other normal creatures, it would be 5 damage. Okay, so that is our dart. What about if we're going to deal with something like a spear? Now, the spear attack is going to be based off strength. It's still got the thrown property, so we're going to get rid of this. I'm going to roll a 20-sided dice, and our modifier for our attack is our strength modifier, which is 0, plus our proficiency, because we are proficient with a spear. We're a fighter. We're proficient with pretty much everything. Okay, so that means that our attack modifier is only a 2. So we roll our 20-sided dice. Is that a cocked dice? No, it's good enough. She's a 17. So 2 plus 17. This is kind of handy. Everything is hitting today. Otherwise, I could be standing here for a very, very long time. Here we go. Ta-da! So, again, we hit our target. 19 is greater than or equal to the armor class of the bearded devil. We throw a spear, and our spear connects, and therefore we get to do some damage. So how much damage do we do? Well, it's based off our strength. So we're going to be using a 6-sided dice this time. There's no modifier, because we've got no modifier for our strength. And I'll just rub this out. And we're going to roll our 6-sided dice. I rolled a 6. Yeehaw, at least that's something. So that's 0 for our strength modifier, plus 6 is going to come out as 6. Very, very simple. Easy peasies, right? Not too hard at all. You were wondering why it was so difficult to figure out. Well, there you go. So that's it. Now, again, normal creature would take 6 piercing from this attack. But it's a bearded devil. It has resistance to piercing. We're not dealing with a magical spear that's being thrown, so therefore we're going to halve that. It means that the bearded devil will only take 3 piercing damage because of the nature of that creature. Okay, so now that we've talked about that part of the discussion, and we've shown you an example, what does Sage Advice have to say? And what are some of the questions you might have that you would like answered from me? And I am going to do my very best to answer those right now. So, first off, a thrown weapon. Look, thrown weapons you are usually proficient with, okay? If you are proficient with the thrown weapon as listed on your character class, okay, it means you can throw it, you can use it as a melee weapon, you can use it as a finesse weapon. But what happens with a thrown weapon, or when you throw a weapon that you're not proficient with? Well, then you don't add your proficiency modifier, okay? And if it doesn't have the thrown quality or property, then again, you're not going to have proficiency added to that. The other aspect to that is you really need to start looking at the improvised weapon rules on page 148 through to page 147 to 148. That'll give you a breakdown of how to deal with like an improvised attack of some kind. Sage Advice questions. The Barbarian Rage. Does the damage from the Barbarian Rage, does it apply to something like a ranged throw-in weapon attack? No. Barbarian Rage applies to a melee attack. Okay? Yes, you might be holding something like a spear that is a melee weapon and also got the throw-in property, but if you make an attack that is ranged and throwing a weapon is a ranged attack, then you can't apply your Barbarian Rage. Can you use your sneak attack with a throw-in weapon attack? Yes, you can. If you want to sneak attack away, go for it. Not going to be a problem. Does the Barbarian's reckless attack work with the throw-in weapon attack? No. The Barbarian's reckless attack can't be used with a throw-in weapon attack. Okay? Reckless attack is for close quarter melee attacks, not for when you start turning things into ranged attacks. So you've got to be up close to use that reckless attack. What about Sharpshooter Feet? Can I apply my Sharpshooter Feet to something like a thrown weapon attack. The Sharpshooter Feat does not work with the thrown weapon attack, so no, unfortunately not. Does the Divine Smite from the Paladin? Doesn't work with a thrown weapon attack. You have to be up close, you have to do a melee attack. That's a melee weapon attack to make it work. Otherwise, no, sorry. Can a monk, oh, this is a good question. Can a monk deflect a thrown weapon? Yes, they can. Yes, they can. It's part and parcel of it, but I'm going to say right here and now, because I know there's a few people who'll start throwing in a few provisos and thinking that they can sort of wangle things the way they want. Look, I know there's going to be some arguments about, can a monk deflect a thrown spear or a javelin? As far as Mike Mills is concerned, yes, they can. Sage advice. If you don't like to follow what Mike Mills has to say, totally understand. I would say this is one area where I would just let the Dungeon Master make the final call with regard to whether it's going to work or not at your table, which you really should be doing anyway. Now, if you have any questions or feedback, that's what the comments section's for, so use it. If you want to watch more of my videos, I have plenty of videos on the core rules and many other aspects of the game for players and Dungeon Masters, and you are welcome to go and watch those videos. It certainly helps me out if you do. I have a Patreon page where you can support me, so I keep making videos like this, and you also get access to exclusive content and a look behind the scenes and stuff like that, and I tend to prioritize the patrons' requests. I do have affiliate links to the book depository and Amazon where you can buy stuff online, and I get a small commission. That also helps out a lot. Please share, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos that are edited, and it does happen. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.